VGMP.
Hello everybody and welcome to VGMP DLC, the show where we review shorts and series that don't warrant a full-length VGMP episode. Today we are continuing on the spin-off from the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, Knuckles, available on Paramount+. Today we are reviewing episode 3 and 4. We are coming at you with a real 50-50 combo today because episode 3 sucks! But episode 4 was pretty good.
I concur.
Shall we talk about how bad episode 3 is and then end on the positive?
Yes, so before we get to that, I'm just going to say I'm still feeling rough because this will have come out about 2 weeks after episodes 1 and 2.
But we're recording them all
But
on
we're
the same
recording
day.
the same day, so following on from the previous episodes 1 and 2, I'm still rough, and I will be for 5 and 6 as well.
Yes, he will, yeah. If anything, he's worse.
But I haven't prepared any sort of rap for you this time.
Thank God. Thank God. So episode 3 is called The Shabbat Dinner. And in this episode, Knuckles and Wade basically go to Wade's mum's house and meet his sister, who is in the FBI and therefore thinks she's better than Wade because he's just a local cop. She's really obnoxious and arrogant about it, and we kind of see that every year on Shabbat dinner they beat each other up.
The sister is just a dick
I don't know
for
what
the sake
Shabbat
of...
dinner is. Like, I know it's a Jewish thing. Is it once a year they have it, or is it every week? Is it their version of Sabbath?
Hang on, let me have a look. It is, yeah, or the Sabbath. So the Sabbath is actually just another name
Right,
for
so they
Shabbat.
have it every week then.
Yeah, it is Judaism's day of rest on the 7th day of the week, but their 7th day is Saturday.
Saturday, yes, it is.
On this day, religious Jews remember the biblical stories describing the creation of the heaven and earth in 6 days, and the redemption from slavery and the exodus from Egypt, and look forward to the future messianic age.
Okay.
Since the Jewish religious calendar counts days from sunset to sunset, Shabbat begins in the evening of what the civil calendar is Friday. So that's interesting. It's as far as Jewish holidays are concerned, they actually run on a slightly different calendar.
That's dumb as fuck.
Well,
So, in episode 3, we essentially, very little happens. We're introduced to Wade's family. The mother is actually played by Stockard Channing, who most people will know from Grease.
Yeah.
She's Rizzo in Grease. And she sings, "Look at me, I'm Sandra D."
D stands
Alright.
for dick. I don't know. I haven't seen.
Have you never seen Grease?
No.
But Grease is the word.
Is it?
Grease is the word.
Right.
It's the word that you heard.
I know John
It's
Travolta's
alright.
in it, and I know that the main
Olivia
woman was.
Newton-John.
Yeah, she was sewn into her trousers.
Yeah, oh my God, they're tight.
But other than that, that's all I know.
I want to say it's a good film. And it's actually a paradoxical film in the sense that it is a good film and it's also a terrible film at the same time.
Yeah.
Basically, not that anyone cares, but here's my sum up of Grease. If you took the songs out of Grease, the film makes no sense.
Doesn't it, basically, if you follow it as a moral story, the story is she has to change entirely who she is to fit in with her boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, people misinterpret it a little bit because he actually changes for her as well.
Right.
The irony is they cross each other. They both turn up at the last day of school. She's now become the leather jacket wearing badass and he's in like a fucking nerdy cardigan and shit.
Right.
And all his mates are taking the piss, like, what the fuck, you're doing this just to get with some bird. He's like, well, I really like her, blah, blah. And then she turns up, she's like, smoking all of a sudden.
Oh, God.
And in the famous song, "You're the One That I Want,"
Yeah.
he sort of sheds the cardigan and shit and goes back to his old persona.
I was going to say, yeah, but the thing is...
But ultimately, yes, she changes in order to be with him, and then the car suddenly flies, so it makes no sense.
Oh,
anyway.
good. Well,
I'm not joking, that's how Grease ends, you know. They get in the car, the Grease Lightning.
Yeah.
And they start driving away, and you're like, okay. And then the car suddenly flies. This is a film that's been relatively realistic up to this point. Like,
other than the singing, yeah.
Yeah, other than the singing. And then the car flies. And John Travolta was kind of like, yeah, I know it could do that. And you're like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna roll with this.
Yeah. No, fair
Anyway,
enough. This episode
doesn't need to exist.
No, it doesn't. It literally adds 0 to the story.
I mean, well, let's caveat this.
Go on.
We haven't seen 5 and 6 yet.
That's
so
true.
To be fair, something could happen in 5 and 6 that makes this relevant. But at the point in time we're at, episode 3, we learned absolutely nothing in it that we hadn't already had established.
Yeah.
Because the only real thing you learn is that his dad was a championship bowler.
Which we kind of
knew that.
knew, yeah.
He said that. He told us that. It does look, and we could talk later about whether we think this is a good idea or not, it looks like Wade's family are going to be in the rest of the show, in which case it looks like the only purpose of this episode was to set them up.
But
I still would argue you didn't need an entire goddamn episode to do that.
The other problem is the two characters that we're adding, Wendy Whipple and Wanda Whipple,
Which one's which?
Wendy Whipple is the mum, and
Right.
Wanda Whipple is the sister.
Right.
The sister keeps claiming she's FBI and keeps making all these outrageous claims about being in the FBI, but we don't see any evidence of that. In fact, she cowers when she gets attacked. And the mum actually stands up more, but it's, whatever. These two characters don't really play off very well to me. Wendy Whipple does a better job.
Yeah,
because
Wanda Whipple's a garbage character.
Yeah, she's literally just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole.
Yeah, it's not the actress's fault. She's just a badly written character.
Yeah, and it's basically she's written to be an asshole so that she can ruin the Shabbat dinner, and that gives the episode its tension. But
that's what I watch Knuckles for, is dinner time tension.
Yes. So the writer of this episode is Brian Schachter. He only wrote this episode and episode 5. And to be fair, the writing quality is very different to episodes 1, 2, and 4. So I'm a bit worried about episode 5 now. I'm hoping he's got what he wanted to get out of episode 3 out of his system, so that 5 won't be a letdown. But I'm not trying to be weird, but it is odd that he's a Jewish writer who has written an episode specifically around a Jewish celebration, and they spend the whole episode going, oh, Knuckles is Jewish. He's just like Jews. And you're like, that's a weird thing to put into a Knuckles series.
I want to say this in a delicate way. It's very awkward. Obviously, I'm not Jewish. But I felt it was very awkward when they basically compare what Knuckles has been through, where his race was killed by owls, to the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And I was like, on a purely surface level, yes, his race has been wiped out. The difference is that's fictional, and their echidnas wiped out by owls. That's just, cartoon shit. That's not people being rounded up all over Europe, shipped to Auschwitz and
genocided. Yeah. It's
forced to take a shower.
It's awkward to make the comparison, and we're not the ones making it. It's made by the show.
Yeah, so maybe we're overthinking it. To be fair,
maybe
it's a Jewish guy that wrote it. He didn't find it offensive. Maybe we're overthinking it.
It does feel it pangs 100% though. This episode is it's like fan service. It's like an 8-year-old kid who happens to be Jewish is like, I wonder what would happen if I brought Knuckles home one day, and just wrote that dinner.
It's like a self-insert fan fiction,
But Wade's already established, so we don't need that self-insert.
Where we're at at the moment, we didn't need this episode.
I don't think we ever needed this episode, to be honest.
To be fair, we won't know for definite until we finish the show.
I
can't imagine. I have to admit, I can't imagine what could possibly happen
in
the next 2 that would change my mind. But I'm trying to be fair.
Sure. It's fan fiction.
It's the only episode of the show so far. We're 4 in. It's the only episode so far where I've been bored.
Yep.
And I've seen episode 1 twice, because I watched it last night to make sure that the quality was good. This one I was bored.
Yeah.
It has a very cool sequence at the end.
Yes.
But the
fight around the dinner table.
Yeah, the wait to get to the sequence is not worth it.
No. Also, so far, you are right, we don't know what happens in 5 and 6, but so far, it kind of looks like you could delete episode 3 and the series would be none the worse off. You could go from the end of episode 2 to the beginning of episode 4 without any real inconvenience.
I suspect what we are going to find once again, I might be wrong. Future Jamie might look back and say, Jamie, you're an idiot. But so far, I've made a lot of correct predictions. Main villain hasn't turned up again yet, has he?
No.
I said he wouldn't till 5 and 6, didn't I?
Yeah, and you've been correct. We've had other villains come in.
Yeah.
But not like they've been like one-shot villains.
I am fairly convinced that our takeaway when we're done with this show will be that this should have been a movie, and they've crowbarred a bunch of extra garbage in to just basically either they wanted something on Paramount Plus or they didn't think a spin-off movie would sell.
Yeah.
So they've crowbarred in all this extra shit that we didn't need. Because I bet you 5 and 6 will go back to the Team Rocket-esque villains and Rory McCann.
Yeah, we haven't seen those in these 2 episodes.
Exactly. In which case, you could argue that take 3 and 4 out and the other 4 episodes make a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
This should have been a Knuckles the Echidna movie.
Yeah.
But they either decided, well, no, we need more content on Paramount Plus to justify people paying for the subscription, or they went, well, we're not convinced people will pay for Knuckles. They might only pay for Sonic. So
maybe it was the fear that they couldn't get Jim Carrey back for Robotnik for a Knuckles film.
But you don't need him. You don't. If let's say this
no,
was a film for a
but
minute.
people are more readily going to accept that. Oh, of course, Eggman's not the villain in this. It's a spin-off series,
exactly.
Rather than it being, they might have gone. I know, but it's still a big budget movie.
Fair
Why
enough,
wouldn't you bring back Jim Carrey?
Maybe it's just me. I have to admit, if it was a film. If this was a film, I would still be fine with it not being Robotnik.
Of course.
Because it's the same as if they did a Tails spin-off. I wouldn't expect it to be Robotnik.
No.
In fact, in the comics, I remember... Nerd alert. In the comics, I remember Tails basically had his own individual arch nemesis, didn't he? It was a robot Robotnik had built, but he'd kind of gone crazy and had broken away from Robotnik. He was a big purple guy. I don't remember his name, though.
I don't remember the purple one. I remember there was a big yellowy gold
Brutus.
one. Yeah, he was yellowy gold.
Yeah, but he still fought Sonic all the time.
He fought Sonic a lot. You had the Metalics as well.
Yeah.
Which were based on Metal Sonic.
Yeah.
And based on the Knuckles
They
Chaotix
fought
storyline.
Knuckles and Team Chaotix a lot.
By the way, this for anyone who's listening going, I don't remember those in the
This
comics.
is Sonic the comic.
Yeah, Sonic the comic. The Fleetway UK comics, not the Archie American comics.
I think what you meant to say there is the better comic.
I agree. But
to be fair, I don't know. I've never read the Archie comic.
I mean, I agree insofar as a lot of the Archie comic kind of... There was a guy who tried to steal characters
that guy.
out of it.
I watched a doc. We're not going to say his name in case he sues us, because he loves to sue.
Yeah.
But if you're out there, you know who the fuck you are. Yeah, I don't remember his name, but basically in Sonic the Comic, because basically the way Sonic the Comic used to be structured, at least in the era I read it, was you usually had the main part of the comic, which would be advancing the main Sonic the Hedgehog storyline, and then you would have... I don't remember if they did both every issue or if it alternated. I think they did both. You'd then have 2 shorter comics within the same magazine.
Right.
And one would be focused on Tails and one would be focused on Knuckles.
Yes. They did that for a little while.
That was the era where I read it, was where you'd have the main storyline, where they'd be doing Sonic and the Freedom Fighters versus Robotnik.
They often had 3 ongoing storylines in each comic.
Right.
So they weren't always Sonic related.
Yeah, I heard they used to do other Sega properties, but not at the time I read it. They didn't. It was always Sonic, Tails, and
They
Knuckles.
actually did Streets of Rage in one of them, and they did
Golden Axe, didn't they?
I think they did Golden Axe. I know they did Shining Force. It's quite interesting actually how much the Fleetway covered, despite just being called Sonic the Comic.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that Sega ended up in the position they're in. Just shows that no matter how big you are, you can still fall.
Anyway.
Because we got a second fucking 90s gaming reference in this, didn't we, as well?
Yeah, there seems to be a
Gaming's
lot of
come a long way since the 90s.
A lot of pot shots at 90s gaming, and I think that is like a haha, because Sonic was from the 90s, right?
It's
but
a
it's
wink,
like,
wink,
you can
nudge,
do that,
nudge,
but you can only do that once.
Yeah, doing it twice is lazy.
Yeah. I have to say, so I think we're done with episode 3.
Well, let's just quickly talk about the really cool bit in 3. Because
Okay.
we might as well talk about the one good bit.
Yes.
There is a very cool fight. So at the end, a bunch of random bounty hunters turn up.
Yep.
Who have had literally no setup, no payoff.
Yep.
They are literally just there to collect the bounty and for a reason to have an action sequence.
Yep.
They turn up and break into the house. That's all largely irrelevant, except for one very cool sequence where two of the bounty hunters come to get Stockard Channing's character, and
Wendy.
She's got two frying pans, and it's sort of it's in a kitchen with one of those islands in the middle.
Yeah.
So you can go all the way around the island. And on the island, she's put the two Shabbat candles, and apparently you're not allowed to extinguish those. I guess it's part of the religion. You have to wait for them to burn out naturally.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't fully understand the relevance of the Shabbat candles and
it tells us
them out
everything
or not.
we need to know in the episode, which is the candles can't go out.
Yeah.
Knuckles turns up to help her, and you basically then get an unbroken, or at least what is made to look like an unbroken take, where the camera essentially is revolving 360 degrees around the island, and it does several laps. Like, this sequence goes on for, I'd say, at least 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's very well choreographed.
And it's even better choreographed when you remember that those henchmen are fighting nothing on set.
Yeah, because they're fighting Knuckles.
Yeah.
There's a couple of bits where they keep fighting Wendy.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's mostly them getting railed by Railed? getting beat.
Different film.
Getting destroyed by Knuckles. That's terrible as well now.
That's like that meme, innit, where it's like, I saw one the other day, it was like, I think I downloaded the wrong Mario movie, and it was a picture of some sort of Mario porn parody with Bowsette in it. And it was this, to be fair, rather attractive, busty lady dressed as Bowsette, and, well, that led to a confusing erection for me. Because I was like, I don't find turtle dragons sexy.
But I find this
But I do find busty ladies sexy, so I don't know how to react right now.
That's a challenging wank.
I'll probably just have a shame wank.
All right, I'll masturbate to turtles just one time.
Just this one time. Then you come and you're like, well, I've got a fetish for life now. See, that's what Tarantino did with feet. He was like, I'll just try it one time. Came and then was like, damn it, that's the only way I can get hard. You know, in some cultures, they only eat vomit. I read about it in a book.
Dodgeball quotes for anyone who doesn't know.
Somehow Dodgeball comes in. You know what? If we're sticking with the whole thin Eggman thing and not making him fat, if you couldn't get Jim Carrey, Ben Stiller would have been a pretty good Dr. Robotnik, actually.
He'd just miniaturise himself down, yeah.
You'd just have to play him as White Goodman.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love that version of Robotnik.
Honestly, that's the only way they can make Dodgeball 2 interesting to me, is if it's a crossover with Sonic the Hedgehog. So yeah, you get this cool fight sequence, and it's interesting. I'm a big fan of creative camera work like this.
Yeah.
Beyond that, there is nothing of value, really, in this episode, I didn't think.
Nope, as we say, unless something happens in 5 and 6 that somehow retroactively makes this episode important, I could have done without it. It's not funny, either. That's the other main thing. 90%
of the jokes in this one don't land.
No. That's why I'm worried about episode 5. Because even ignoring the fact that it's, it's just a home dinner episode, the fact that most of the jokes don't land makes me worry about the fact it's the same writer.
I've just thought, was that 5. A bottle episode?
It is a bottle episode, yeah.
That was all in the house, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it turns out the writer basically put all his effort into 5 and then wrote 3 as an afterthought. He was like, shit, the deadline's nearly here, I better be quick.
I'll just some dinner. Just do a dinner.
Yeah. So, episode 4 then. So episode 4 is called The Flames of Disaster.
Yes.
Which I am fairly certain, based on vague half-remembered memories, is a reference to Sonic 06. I'm sure the phrase Flames of Disaster is used a lot in that film, in that game.
Possible. I don't know.
But they've basically decided in this that that's the source of Knuckles' power, which is interesting. Because basically what this seems to imply, we'll get into the actual plot of the episode later, but it seems to imply is that Knuckles' power is not inherent. Right. It's something he acquired through his training, in which case...
Though it does state that is his inner spirit.
Yeah.
So I think it is
right.
innate.
Okay, so it's not that he got it from the demon.
Yeah, he had to acquire the experience to use it, I think.
So I was going to say that might lead to an interesting plot with Sonic later on, where maybe it turns out Sonic got his power from somewhere.
It ends up not being that he got it from somewhere. It's just, you've got to find your own internal spirit. Because there is a bit where Wade thinks he's already got the answer. Oh, yeah, I just use my fists.
Yeah.
He leaves the dream, tries to punch through a bar, gets electrocuted again, and then falls back into the dream.
Yeah.
Now, this episode, almost all the jokes land for me. I find this episode incredibly hilarious. Essentially, the main bulk of it is straight from the off. Wade gets up, has some breakfast, and then gets hog-tied by the guy from the beginning.
Jack Sinclair.
Yep, Jack Sinclair, played by Julian Barrett, who is, again, a tour de force in this episode.
This is the episode you do to give your animators a break, because Knuckles is barely in this.
Yep, he's in the beginning and a bit of the end.
Yeah, he's literally in one sequence.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was quite surprised at how many stunts they actually did as stunts, rather than, like, there's a shot with Jack riding his motorbike towards the camera and then, like, doing a side turn break.
Yeah.
And
he's trailing Wade on a rope, isn't he?
And Wade flies into a road sign. And it's all done in one shot, and I can't see if it is CGI. It looks more like it's a stunt job, which is brilliant. I love seeing that sort of stuff. And actually, we were talking about the interesting sequence in episode 3. Episode 4 seems to go hard on reducing the amount of visual effects in replacement for costume, stunt work, and props. I loved it.
Yeah, I did.
What an episode.
Yeah.
And again, Julian Barrett is the MVP of the episode because, I'll be honest, he's my favourite character in it so far.
He's doing really well. So in this episode, Wade is captured, literally right at the start, gets captured and driven away, and it turns out it's Jack Sinclair, because obviously there's now a bounty on Wade's head.
Yep, and he did introduce himself as a bounty hunter in episode 1.
And what I did like was he has got the stretch Hummer that was promised him by the little girl's parents.
They're bored in that Hummer, though, aren't they? They can't stand being in there with
they're
him.
terrified. It's almost like he's taken them hostage. But did you notice, where's the rest of the team?
Yeah, he was meant to be taking the whole team, but it's just him and her and her parents.
Yeah, they're just going to meet him there, clearly, but he said they were all getting it.
Yeah, so what's the point in this stretch Hummer?
And he's trailing on the back what looks like, from the old days where circuses were allowed to use animals, it looks like the cage that circuses would carry, like, tigers
I'm fairly certain it is.
Yeah. And he makes some joke about having got it from Facebook Marketplace, doesn't he?
The guy was a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah. He takes Wade prisoner, and they're driving off to Reno, and Wade rings Knuckles, and he's like, you got to help me. And Knuckles is like, nope, this is part of your training. You've got to get out of it yourself.
Yeah, this is somewhere where having episode 3 also sort of makes the story weird, because Knuckles has been trying to get Wade to be more independent. In episode 3, he doesn't. He outright saves Wade and his family. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, straight away from episode 4, Wade gets kidnapped by another bounty hunter that Knuckles hasn't met.
And Knuckles is just like, yeah, whatever.
And he's just like, no, he has to get himself out of problems. It's like, well, why didn't he have to do that last night?
Yeah.
So actually, having episode 3 introduces a plot hole in Knuckles' story development.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's got to get himself out of it.
Yeah. And Knuckles' only advice is he tells him to meditate for advice on from the ancestors. So Wade does that, but Jack Sinclair decides to shock him anyway with the electric bars, which knocks him out, and then takes him to the bowling alley set, because, let's be honest, we can't afford to build another set just for this sequence.
No, they cover it well, though.
You'll know why in a minute, because they clearly spent money building something else. And Chief Packachak, or whatever his name is there. Christopher Lloyd's character, the elderly Echidna. This is where we get to the bit I both like and don't like about this episode. Maybe I'm going too hard, but I don't think I am, because you said the same thing. This sequence is lifted from Alan Wake 2. Now, that's fine.
If it wasn't, I'd be very surprised, because it's so on point.
Yeah, if Alan Wake 2 hadn't come out, I don't think this sequence would be in this show, is what I'm saying.
Which makes
I'm not saying they've literally ripped it off, but they've definitely seen it and been inspired.
Yeah, now, when did Alan Wake 2 come out?
Last October.
So they didn't have long in the pot to write an episode with, if it was inspired by Alan Wake, bear in mind how long this would have to be in production for, but, as you said, there's not a lot of CGI in it. So I wonder if you are right that this was meant to be like a 2-hour movie, and both episodes 3 and 4 were inserts to make it a series last minute, which would then allow for them to write this sequence.
Yeah, maybe.
But this sequence is brilliant.
Because I did hear, when I first heard the rumours of a Knuckles spin-off, the rumour I heard was a movie.
Yeah.
And then that stopped, and I was like, oh, I guess they've dropped it. And then all of a sudden, the series got announced.
Yeah. And again, like, episode 3 adds nothing so far as we can tell. And episode 4, other than a little bit with the bounty hunter, I mean, you could have worked that into another episode. Yeah. It's not necessarily standalone episode material.
Now, for those who don't know, the game Alan Wake 2 came out last year. It's been 13 goddamn years in development. If you've listened to VGMP at all, then you're fed up of hearing me talk about it. Because for me, it was not only my game of the year in 2023. To be honest, if it didn't happen to come out the same year Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I'm convinced it would have won Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Because a lot of award ceremonies have done a cheeky thing where they basically created a consolation award for it, which was like best narrative game and stuff like that. And it's very clear that that's because they couldn't decide between Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
Someone actually said on another podcast I was listening to the other day, 2023 is actually one of the greatest years in gaming we've had when you look at what came out, and they were comparing it to 1997. Which 97 and 98 were both incredible years for games. I mean, Resident Evil 2, Final Fantasy 7, Sonic Adventure. In Japan, I think Europe didn't get it till 99.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
2023, to be fair, was the same. I mean, Alan Wake 2, I haven't played it yet, but everyone raves about Baldur's Gate 3, and certainly the amount of content it has in it, it definitely deserved praise. The Resi 4 remake is incredible. It's actually better than the original, in my opinion, which is hard to do.
Like a Dragon Gaiden.
Like a Dragon Gaiden for you. Whatever that Zelda game, is it Breath of the Wild?
There's
or
a sequel,
Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, it's the sequel to Breath of the Wild,
Because someone, literally, I watched a video earlier where someone said, if you'd have told me years ago that Tears of the Kingdom was coming out and then it was a sequel to Breath of the Wild, I'd have said there's absolutely no way nothing else beats that for Game of the Year. And then it came out the same year that Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 came out. Street Fighter 6 is apparently incredible.
Yeah.
And has sort of breathed new life into that franchise that I think was struggling a bit.
Yeah, it's made it easier for people to access rather than being... It is as complicated, if not more so, than previous titles.
Yeah.
But it's introduced a control mechanic to allow new players to actually get into the series.
I haven't played it myself yet, and I don't think it's revolutionary, but apparently Spider-Man 2 is very good, very polished and shit.
Miles Morales?
No, it's the sequel. It is a sequel to that. So they did Spider-Man, then they did Spider-Man Miles Morales, and then they've done Spider-Man 2.
Right.
Yeah, so 2023, it sounds like, was a fucking stellar year for gaming.
Yeah.
Me and you, obviously, we're not as up-to-date with gaming as we used to be, because we're adults and we have responsibilities now.
You kids with your Pac-Man video games.
And games cost 70 fucking quid now, and we're poor. So we pick and choose carefully. You know, I bought Resident Evil 4 because I always put aside money when I know a new Resident Evil game's coming.
Yeah.
Luckily, they always announce those like 6 months in advance.
And
so
if they don't, they get leaked.
Yeah, so I just start putting a little money aside.
Sure.
And Alan Wake 2, I treated myself to that for my birthday because I have waited 13 goddamn years for Alan Wake 2.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk came out last year.
Yeah, that's meant to be incredible.
I love Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
So is I haven't played it myself, but I actually bought it for you and for my brother for Christmas. What's it called? Shinji Mikami was involved in it. Hi-Fi Rush is meant to be brilliant.
I haven't started that yet. I really want to.
Yeah, I bought that for you and my brother.
Yeah.
I got you and my brother the same gift this year. In Alan Wake 2, there is a section that you have to be living under a rock not to have heard about this because it went viral. It's chapter 4 of Alan Wake's campaign, I think is called We Sing, and it is a musical level where Alan basically is living an actual rock concert, and it's got a song in it called Herald of Darkness, which is sung by a band called Poets of the Fall, which are a real band. They're a real band. You should look them up. They do good music, especially if you're into rock. And within the Alan Wake games, they play a fictional band called Old Gods of Asgard. it's not just the fact this has done if it had just done a musical, I'd be like, well, no, maybe not.
It's
because
the way they've done it.
It's the way they've done it.
It's
set
so
up,
Alan Wake 2.
It's set up just like Alan Wake 2. It's clearly 80s influenced.
Yep.
The whole point of the song is it's singing Knuckles' backstory, which is what Herald of Darkness is for. Herald of Darkness, basically, because there was a 13-year gap, and Alan Wake 2 is essentially locked on an old console now.
Yeah.
Although I think they've done a remastered version that you can get on modern consoles.
Yes, you can get it on the Xbox 360, which is closing its stores this year, and then but it's backwards compatible with the Xbox One.
Yeah, it's funny, the remastered version, I know I've got the remastered version, but that's on PC. I don't know if for the remaster they've finally let PlayStation have it or not. I actually don't know.
I think so. It doesn't sound like a very Microsoft move.
No, well, you say that, but Microsoft have stopped doing exclusives now, haven't they? But also, I think Remedy fully have the Alan Wake license now.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure that was I think they basically swapped Quantum Break for Alan Wake.
Right.
Because Microsoft still have Quantum Break.
Yes.
And I think the deal Remedy struck was, fine, you can have Quantum Break. Can we please, pretty please, have Alan Wake back? And Microsoft were like, well, this game was, to be fair, the first game was at best a cult hit.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mainstream chart-topping, Call of Duty-selling game. No. Anyway, I did like this, so I'm going to say my one negative first, so we can then focus on positives.
Sure.
The song's not that good. And that was a problem for me.
It's not as good as Herald of Darkness, I will give you that.
It's not as catchy.
No, but it was enjoyable.
But everything around it...
Yeah, and the song was enjoyable, to be fair.
It was alright, it was fine.
Yeah.
But everything around it, all the costumes, the set, I very much liked. It was very funny and very cool.
So they dress Wade up as Knuckles, but in like a real fucking...
Like a onesie?
Yeah, like a onesie more so. But there's bits like where he's playing Knuckles gliding through Green Hill, and they've got a Green Hill background.
Yes.
But it's just like, it's the headpiece.
With actual physical rings on ropes that he's running, as he's going past them, he's detaching them.
Yeah.
And carrying them on his arm.
Yeah. I love the bit where he's gliding, and it's basically... He's now all in black, but he's got the Knuckles headpiece, and he's got like a fake littler body behind his head of Knuckles gliding, and he's got Knuckles' hands on sticks.
Yeah, he does the loop.
It's so good.
He does the loop-de-loop.
He does.
With some camera trickery help.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And they do the Sonic 2 special stage.
Yes, they do.
That was the funniest one for me. Green Hill we've seen a billion times.
Yeah.
But the fact they did...
the special stage.
It's funny they did Green Hill, isn't it? Because Knuckles isn't playable in Sonic 1.
No, I
other
think
than
it's just
with
because
mods.
it's the most iconic level.
That's it. It's because it's the most iconic. Realistically, it probably should have been Angel Island Zone. But
also, though, to be fair, it's meant to be more about Wade's history than it is Knuckles.
And he's from Green Hills.
He's from Green Hills.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it's
such a great... I love the sequence. And don't get me wrong, I still, when I watched it, went, this is so blatantly stolen from Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a good bit of theft.
Yeah,
it's
I
well
was fine
done.
with
and
it.
There's no CGI in it.
No.
It's all costume and wire work and, like, camera work.
And it's literally got, like, the people operating the props are just in black onesies, aren't they?
Just run around. It looks like a stage show.
Yeah.
I love
which
it.
is very Alan Wake 2.
And it's also lit very much like the Alan Wake 2.
Oh, yeah. Also, fucking Michael Bolton in a voice cameo as the singing voice of Knuckles.
Yes, that's also good.
When a man loves a woman.
He doesn't sing that in this...
No, but it's the most famous Michael Bolton song, isn't it?
No, the most famous Michael Bolton song
it's not
is...
Jack Sparrow. I wish it was.
The tale
of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Anyway, Julian Barrett is also in this.
He plays Jack Sinclair.
Yeah, but dressed as an owl and on a guitar.
Longclaw the Owl, it says.
Longclaw the Owl.
Which wasn't that the owl that was Sonic's adoptive mum?
Yes. I think so.
I'm sure they were
So
called
that
Longclaw.
that might be interesting. If it is the one that played his adoptive mum, who is basically a villain to Knuckles, that would be an interesting...
That's something, isn't it? I don't think they've ever addressed that yet, have they?
No, Sonic's not... as far as we're aware, Sonic's never mentioned he was raised by owls.
So you think that would have been in... if they were going for the Sonic versus Knuckles thing...
That might happen
2,
in Sonic 3, do you reckon?
I actually hope not.
Because it might muddy the story.
Just because if they are doing Sonic Adventure 2, which by all accounts it looks like they are...
Yeah.
I just think that'd be one too many things to add in.
Fair,
bear in mind, we already know for a fact, I'm not even counting leaks, things that we officially know. We've got Shadow, played by Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
And Rouge, played by Kristen... Oh, God, what's her name? She's Jessica Jones. Kristen Ritter.
Yeah. I think she's in this series as well, Rouge.
Oh, really?
One of the things I looked at, unfortunately, spoiled that and said this is the... But then it came up on episode 4, but she's not in episode 4. I think...
Did we miss something?
No, I think what it is someone mentions a bat stealing something.
Oh, okay. My point is... In Sonic 3, that's already 2 characters we know for a fact that they've got to set up.
Yeah.
If Shadow's there, it's pretty reasonable to assume that Maria and Gerald Robotnik are going to be involved. That's 4 characters we've got to set up. I think adding Sonic v Knuckles in would just be... Yeah. And let's be honest, I think Amy's going to turn up. Yeah. I don't think they're going to resist introducing Amy much longer.
I think, to be honest, the problem is there's not many female... animated characters yet. Yeah. Amy is a good idea to introduce. Obviously, we're getting Rouge. We know that from the third film, at least. Yeah,
I think we'll get Amy as well.
However, perhaps again, we've not seen episode 4 and 5 and 6. Sorry, so it could be that they actually do pay that off at the end of this series. It seems a little late in the game to introduce it now, but it's possible that Sonic comes back into the series and that rivalry.
I think he'll be in the last episode.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be a main part of it, but I think at the end, Knuckles will go back to the house.
Yeah.
I have just thought, what if it's a long shot? Because if you were doing this, surely you'd just have Kristen Ritter play the part. But we have been waiting for a reveal about that female agent. What if she has something to do with Rouge?
Maybe.
But surely then you would just have Kristen Ritter play the agent.
Yeah, I think the problem we've got is that we don't have any answers as to who the 2 agents are. We don't even have a name for the person they're working for.
No.
That they're betraying Gunn for. So these 2 episodes don't introduce any additional about the actual main story.
Yeah.
The closest we get is that episode 4, at least, has a little bit of the way to Reno, and it ends with them driving into the state of Reno.
Nevada.
Well, it said Reno on the road sign.
Reno's a city, it's not a state.
Is it not?
No, Reno's in Nevada.
Right, okay. Wasn't Reno also in The Wizard?
I was surprised that Reno's in Nevada, because Reno is basically Wish.com Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I always assumed it was in a different state. But then in the first episode, they said Reno, Nevada. And I was like, well, what's the point of having 2 of them in the same state?
Yeah,
because Atlantic City is also Wish.com Las Vegas, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's in New Jersey.
New Jersey. That's the other side of the country, isn't it?
That's where Mario goes.
Yeah. Reno was in Campeón del Videojuego. Because isn't that where they go to gamble for the money and then she shouts, "She touched my breast"?
Probably, yeah.
I think that was Reno. Because they say it's a...
Isn't Nevada next to California?
Yeah.
So they probably went through Nevada, because obviously in that film they're trying to get to California. So my question for you was the demon thing in the musical.
Yes.
Is that supposed to be a something? I was wondering if it was supposed to be like Iblis or something from Sonic 06.
So there was 2 options that I thought of when looking at it. It could either be Iblis from Sonic 06, or it could be Doom from Shadow the Hedgehog.
No, that's not Black Doom.
Shadow. What are you doing, Shadow?
No, they're going to do fucking Black Doom in the next one, aren't they? Oh, God, I know what they're going to do. They're going to do Sonic 3 is going to be Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get a Shadow Paramount Plus spin-off, and that's going to be Black Doom.
Yes. That must...
Yeah, I don't want that.
I don't want any...
Honestly, I'm going to be controversial here.
Black Doom sucks. I don't want him in it.
I'm going to be really controversial here. Shadow should die at the end of Sonic 3 like he does in Sonic Adventure 2.
And just never come back.
But he should stay dead.
Yes.
Because 1, Keanu Reeves is expensive.
Yes.
And 2, the worst thing they ever did in the games was keep bringing Shadow back. I know people love him because he's cool and he's an edgelord.
But they never got a decent story for him.
But his death is so impactful.
Yeah.
Sort of. It was a bit weird that he dies and Sonic doesn't. It was like, did you just have less rings?
Or no, Sonic gets back onto the Ark, doesn't he?
That's it. But they're both together.
Sonic just left him behind.
Well, I thought the implication as a kid was supposed to be
He sacrificed himself
because
for
they
Maria.
both use chaos control. See, what you should have done is either just have Shadow use the chaos control,
Yeah.
and that's what kills, to stop the arc, and that kills him. But they don't. Both of them do it. So my interpretation as a kid was that at the end of the day, although Shadow's meant to be the ultimate life form, he is artificial, isn't he? He's built by Gerald Robotnik. I thought the implication was meant to be that actually Sonic, it's confirmation that Sonic is the superior of the two, because the super form hasn't exhausted him.
Right.
But using the super form or the hyper form has exhausted Shadow and he can't do it anymore. Because I don't think they've ever done Hyper Shadow again, have they? Even though they keep bringing him back.
He never goes
super, does he? Oh, no, End of Shadow the Hedgehog he doesn't he?
Yeah, but that doesn't count because it's a shit game.
Yeah.
It's the one I should like because it's grittier and he's on a motorbike.
But no one needs Sonic to be
exactly. This is my point. It's like the whole reason he worked in Sonic Adventure 2 is he was the one grit in an otherwise more Sonic-style game. As soon as you try and make the game gritty, certainly it's gritty, but it's for kids, doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the episode.
What didn't help, very quickly, what didn't help with Shadow the Hedgehog either was them promising a fucking choose-your-own-adventure mechanic that doesn't work.
Yes.
But anyway...
I like this episode that Wade basically finds his cojones.
Yeah. Weird that he does seem to have powers now, though, because he literally leaps straight up from the cage, doesn't he?
Yeah, so
that was a bit odd.
That they need to start explaining that, because you're right, he's just a human. He has the dream sequence, and he realises, oh, the power is my own, basically, self-belief, and the power comes from within me. And with no gauntlets, no extra abilities, he's literally in pyjamas. He jumps up and smashes through the roof of the cage, and then lands superhero landing on the ground.
Yeah.
But they never go, like, did he have a quill on him, like, from Knuckles or anything like that? Maybe they'll explain that later.
Or does every human in this universe have the potential to become Knuckles?
Yeah, which might...
That'd be stupid.
That wouldn't work for me.
No.
The other thing as well that worries me is when we see Knuckles and Wade travelling to Nevada, we then see Wanda and Wendy, his mum and sister, in a car behind them, following them in.
I don't need them in the rest of the series.
No, I mean, I didn't like episode 3, but you know what? The characters are fine to have that little moment. Yeah. But I'm sorry, if you're not bringing Sonic and Tails with you on this, I don't need Wanda and Wendy.
No.
You know what I mean? It's like they've had their bit, leave them behind.
Yeah.
The only reason I can think of that because they're not in the rest of the story either.
No.
Like literally, this whole episode 4, it's essentially a Wade single venture, him versus Jack.
Yeah.
They're not in the fight. They have nothing to do with it. Literally, they're at the opening when he gets kidnapped, and they're all just like, oh, well, he has to do it himself.
Yeah.
Knuckles isn't even in it at that point. And then right at the end when he turns up on Jack's motorbike wearing the jacket, and then them driving into Reno.
Yeah.
You're like, well...
So, do we think Jack's coming back at all? Or is it...
Well, considering he's meant to still be playing in the tournament with Susie, it would make sense for him to come back.
But to come back from that.
Yeah, he ran off down the street going, don't look at me!
Yeah.
Don't look at me!
It feels like it's almost a bit too soon to have resolved that story, actually.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not resolved because I actually like the actor. I'd like him to... Perhaps he'll run into the gun guys and they'll recruit him because he's got some knowledge. I don't know. I'd hate for him to be written out, but we keep Wendy and Wanda.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly... here's the thing. Even Wendy has more... Wanda has literally no point in being here. She's not even friendly to Wade. She doesn't like Wade. She's not supportive of Wade. Why is she in the damn car?
I don't know. At one point, when they first got invaded, I thought it was going to turn out that she was in on it with the villains.
Yeah.
Because you had that scene where she wouldn't put her phone down, didn't you? And she kept texting someone and was just going, it's a work call, it's a work call.
And she keeps saying she's with the FBI.
Yeah, which is a government agent.
Yeah, and he's on the run. So she, as an FBI agent, should know that, but we're given no nudge that she's even aware that he's a fugitive.
Yeah. Which,
again, when they get broken into, and she's like, I'm an FBI agent, and then immediately starts cowering like a child, made me think, oh, okay, so this is exposing the fact that she's been lying this whole time. She's not actually an FBI agent.
Yeah.
But they don't expose that either. I'm just like, are they saving this for episode 5? Because I'll be honest, I don't even want them.
No.
Let alone...
Well, we'll see what happens. Anyway,
but either way...
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another episode of VGMP DLC. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with the final 2 parts of Knuckles. Hopefully it pulls off that ending, baby. And we'll be back this Saturday with a brand new episode of VGMP reviewing another feature film. And you can catch a preview, a sneak peek of that episode right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a real slobber knocker as we watch the 2010 adaptation of popular video game fighting franchise Tekken.
I am Tekken.
And so the main character is Jin and his mum's called Jun.
Right.
So he's Jin Kazama, she's Jun Kazama. That's canon to the games, to be fair.
I could tell by how stupid it was.
Destroy the mask of death.
Jin enters, gets his ass beat, has a flashback to when his dear old mum trained him as a martial art fighter, and then suddenly finds the strength to win.
Now, that's a decent enough trope, and it's absolutely fine. Once.
Not every fight.
You're a bunch of wankers, every last one of you.
You're all a bunch of wankers.
I don't think Luke Goss knew he was in the film. I think I could believe Luke Goss just runs illegal bare knuckle boxing rings, and they just turned up and filmed him at one. He was like, fucking hell, this guy's good. Jin lives with his mum.
Her name is Tonic.
Oh, that's you trying to be funny. I thought I replaced you with Preston.
Game over, yeah! Cyberpunk Studios.